She was only 9. No lawyers, no spotlight, just a trembling voice and a broken heart. But when she stood up and pointed at the man in uniform, the courtroom froze. Because what she said next didn't just accuse him, it shattered everything. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Slow piano music. Black screen fades into courtroom visuals. A calm, emotional voice speaks as the camera pans across a nearly empty courtroom. They say courtrooms are places for justice. But on that cold Thursday morning, it was a place of ghosts. Not the kind that haunt buildings, the kind that haunt memories. She was just 9 years old, tiny, soft-spoken. Her shoes didn't even touch the floor from the witness chair. But when she looked up, her eyes carried something no child should ever have to hold. A slow zoom in on her face. The courtroom is quiet. A tissue crumples in her hand. Her foster mother sits behind her, eyes red. The case was supposed to be routine. A custody hearing between child services and a foster home. But what happened that day, no one was ready for. She had been asked a simple question. Do you know anyone in this courtroom? She scanned the room, past the judge, the lawyers, the social worker, and then she pointed. A soft, eerie hum. Cut to a shot of a stunned police officer sitting across the courtroom. Her finger didn't shake. It didn't hesitate. She pointed at him. A uniformed police officer. Sergeant Michael Rhodes, 17 years on the force. Decorated, respected, and now, turning pale under courtroom lights. A child's memory, blurred in slow motion. Police lights. A screaming boy. A man's shadow over a child. The officer looking on. You were there that night, she said. Her voice cracked, but her eyes never blinked. You told me everything would be okay. When the man was hurting my brother, you saw me crying. You saw him bleeding. And you did nothing. The judge looking confused. The prosecutor whispering to a colleague. The room thick with silence. Gasps. A chair slid backward. The tension in that room could have stopped a heartbeat. The officer's lips parted. No one moved, not even the bailiff. The little girl clutching her stuffed bear on her lap. You promised me, she whispered. You looked me in the eye and said you're safe now. She paused, and then asked a question that broke every wall in that courtroom. So why didn't you stop him? The officer, his face hollow. He removes his cap. His hand trembles. Sergeant Rhodes had testified in dozens of trials. He'd faced guns, riots, and danger. But in that moment, standing before a 9-year-old girl, he couldn't find the words. Not right away. Until finally, he whispered something that changed the entire energy in that courtroom. Close up on his face. Whispered, shaking voice. Sergeant Rhodes softly. Because I was told to stand down. Dramatic pause. Cut to black screen. Suspenseful music rises. But what he didn't say was who gave that order. And why. Because what happened that night wasn't just about silence. It was a cover-up. And the truth? It's darker than anyone in that courtroom ever imagined. A little black girl points at a police officer in court. Slow piano music continues. Black screen fades into a hazy memory of flashing blue and red lights. Rain falls. A police radio crackles faintly in the background. There are moments in life when truth doesn't come in explosions. It comes in whispers. Quiet, cold, heavy enough to break the strongest man. That day in that courtroom, when Sergeant Rhodes said he was told to stand down, something cracked, not just in him, but in a system that had hidden behind silence for far too long. Courtroom, the judge leans forward. All eyes are locked on the officer. The little girl clutches her stuffed bear tightly. The prosecutor tried to object. The defense lawyer dropped her pen. Even the stenographer paused her typing. But the girl didn't move. She didn't blink. Because she knew. She wasn't pointing at a stranger. She was pointing at the first adult who ever looked her in the eyes and walked away. A dimly lit hallway. A man yelling. A boy screaming. The officer hesitating at the door. A voice over his radio. Stand down. Do not intervene. It's a family issue. Rhodes took a deep breath. And then he said it. Sergeant Rhodes, quietly. There was a man in that house. He was hurting them. The boy, the girl, and I knew it. I called it in. I asked for backup, but I was told, pause, that family's off limits. Off limits. One word. 2 children. No protection. The foster mother covering her mouth. The judge whispering something off mic. The officer now trembling, visibly shaken. For months, Sergeant Rhodes buried the truth. He told himself it was just protocol, that he couldn't go against orders. But every night since, he saw her eyes, those tiny, terrified eyes, begging. And that boy, the one who couldn't speak for himself anymore, a photo of a young boy with a bruised face, held up by the foster mother. The little girl looks down. He didn't survive. 3 weeks after that night, he died in a hospital bed. Internal bleeding. No one arrested. No one investigated. Because someone higher up wanted the case buried. Sergeant Rhodes staring into space, voice low and raw. Sergeant Rhodes softly. I failed them, but I wasn't the only one. This goes higher, much higher. Cut to the judge whispering to her assistant, who rushes out of courtroom. Police officers exchange worried glances. He wasn't just confessing anymore. He was exposing something. And the people he was about to name, they weren't ready to be dragged into the light. Because the man who gave the order wasn't just a supervisor. He was someone with power, someone with something to hide, and someone willing to do anything to make sure this girl never spoke again. A sudden knock echoes. Cut to a dark hallway where a pair of black boots walk slowly toward a door. That same night, as she sat by the window, holding her brother's photo, someone knocked on the door. A hand reaches for the knob. The little girl turns her head, and when she opened it, she saw a face she never thought she'd see again. But this time, he wasn't wearing a uniform. Soft music fades in. Black screen. A knock echoes 3 times, slowly. Then silence. It was past 10 p.m. when he knocked. No one was expecting visitors. The porch light had been off for hours. The street outside, quiet. Too quiet. She had just placed her brother's photo by the window, tucked her favorite stuffed bear under her arm. And then, the knock. The little girl walks slowly toward the front door. The foster mother is asleep in the next room. The hallway is dim. The house creaks with tension. She didn't rush. She didn't speak. But she knew that knock. Not because it was loud, but because it felt familiar. The kind of knock that doesn't need to shout. Because it already knows who you are. Through the peephole, a man in plain clothes. No badge. No smile. His eyes hidden under the brim of a cap. She opened the door slowly. Just a crack. And when she saw him, her heart stopped. Because it wasn't just a man. It was the man. The one from that night. The night her brother screamed. The night she was told to stay quiet if she wanted to live. A younger version of a girl hiding under a table. The man arguing with another officer. The boy crying in the next room. A uniformed cop lowering his gaze. Radio static whispering, "Stand down." He wasn't wearing a uniform this time. But she didn't need one to remember his face. Man at the door calmly, "You're a brave little girl, aren't you?" Pauses. "You talk too much." Silence. The girl slowly closes the door, but he places his hand against it. She didn't scream. She didn't cry, because the fear had grown so deep, it no longer showed on her face. She looked him straight in the eye, and for the first time, she spoke back. "Little girl," soft but clear, "someone's finally listening now, and they're coming for you." The man stares at her, then smirks. Man at the door, "No, sweetheart, they're coming for you." A car engine idling down the street. 2 shadows inside. A camera lens flashes. Someone is watching, recording, waiting. That wasn't a threat. It was a warning. Because what this little girl didn't know was that the courtroom wasn't the only place justice had failed. There was a file, a sealed file, hidden inside a police department server, one that named names. And hers was on it. Sergeant Rhodes pacing in his apartment. His phone rings. Unknown number. He answers. Mysterious voice on phone. You said too much today, Mike. You want to protect that girl? Then disappear. Before we make her disappear first. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Black screen. The words appear one by one in red letters. The system is broken, and now it wants revenge. And just when she thought she was safe, a secret buried 6 years ago is about to resurface. And the person who buried it was someone she trusted. Slow piano with a heartbeat rhythm underneath. Black screen. Then a quote appears. Sometimes the danger isn't outside the house. It's already inside. The knock had come and gone, but the fear didn't leave. The man had walked away, but he'd left something behind. Not a weapon, not a message. Something worse. The little girl sits at the table, her bear in one hand, a folded paper in the other. She opens it. Her name is written on the front, in handwriting she knows. She recognized the handwriting instantly, the same way she recognized a lullaby or the scent of home. It was from someone she once trusted more than anyone else. Her mother. But the letter, it wasn't warm. It wasn't comforting. It was a confession. Images of a woman sitting in a police station, signing papers, looking down at the floor. A man in a suit slides her an envelope. 6 years ago, when things first started to fall apart, her mother was offered a deal, a clean slate, a new name, a promise of protection. All she had to do was stay silent and leave her children behind. Sergeant Rhodes in his car. He's replaying a voicemail. A woman's voice says, "You weren't supposed to dig this deep, Mike." But Rhodes had questions now, ones that didn't make sense. The girl's file wasn't sealed by accident. It had been flagged by someone with inside access, someone who knew exactly where she was, and who wanted her to stay forgotten. The little girl talks to her foster mom. Little girl, quietly, "You said you didn't know my real mom." Foster mom, I didn't lie. I just wasn't allowed to tell you." Little girl, "Why now?" Foster mom, in tears. "Because now they're watching me too." The truth was unraveling fast. Too fast. And the deeper they went, the more dangerous it became. Because the betrayal didn't stop with her mother. The man who gave the order to stand down that night, he wasn't just a supervisor. He was a family friend, a godfather, a man who held her at her baptism. The same man who erased the video footage of what happened that night. Sergeant Rhodes storms into a records room, throws a folder on the table. Inside, sealed reports, signatures, payment receipts. They'd paid the price of silence. But now it was time to speak. Rhodes had one last name to uncover, one that connected everything, from the order to stand down, to the sealed file, to the knock at the door. The little girl finds a key taped behind a photo frame. She looks at it closely on the tag, Unit 23, Storage. She didn't know what was inside that locker, only that her brother had once told her, "If anything ever happens, go to the locker." What she didn't know was someone else was already there. A figure inside a dark storage unit. A flashlight beam passes over dusty boxes. One box is open. Inside, VHS tapes, labeled with dates. The tapes held the truth. The night, the screams, the cover-up. But as she reached the door to the unit, her phone buzzed. A message, no number, just 3 words. "You're too late." A low, distorted voice whispers. She was never meant to survive. Black screen. Sound of a VHS tape being pushed into a player. A low electrical hum follows. Then static. There are truths too painful to speak, too dark to write down. So they bury them, deep in silence, deeper in tape, until someone dares to press play. A dim storage unit. Dust hangs in the air like fog. The little girl kneels beside a dusty box labeled Evidence, 2019. Rhodes is behind her, flashlight in one hand, a portable player in the other. They were never meant to find it. Not the locker, not the tapes, and especially not that one. The one marked with just a single word. Live. Static gives way to shaky, handheld footage. A timestamp flashes, June 14th, 2019, 2:17 a.m. The video starts with a hallway. Bare, quiet, then a scream. Muffled, childlike, and the camera keeps rolling. Angle. From behind a cracked door, a shadowy figure enters a room. The voice of a man is heard. Not yelling, laughing, drunk, angry. Then something crashes. A boy cries out. It was him. The man they said wasn't even home that night. The man police reports claimed couldn't be reached. But the tape doesn't lie. And standing in that doorway, in uniform, was Sergeant Rhodes. Present day, Rhodes watching the screen, his face pale, hands shaking. He wasn't watching to see what happened. He already knew. He was watching for something else. Someone else. Because 2 minutes into the tape, a second officer enters the frame, one with a higher rank, and a familiar voice. The second officer turns to the camera, unawares recording. He mutters, "Keep it clean. No bruises they can't explain. You get what you came for, then we're done here." The girl covers her ears. Rhodes slams the pause button. Sergeant Rhodes to himself, No, it can't be him. But it is the deputy chief, the same man who gave Rhodes his badge, the same man who signed the stand down order, the same man who swore under oath that he'd never set foot near that house. Flashback, the deputy chief shaking hands with city officials, speaking at a press conference about protecting children, the same man who built his entire career. On a lie, scene returns to the unit. Rhodes drops the tape into a small backpack. He turns to the girl. Sergeant Rhodes. This is enough to bring him down. Little girl softly, "So why do you look scared?" Rhodes, after a pause, "Because if we have this, they'll do anything to make sure we don't live long enough to show it." Outside, a black SUV pulls up near the unit. Two men in suits step out. One of them checks his watch. The other loads a silencer. They weren't the only ones looking for the tape, and they were already too close. The girl's foster mother receives a call. Unknown number. She answers. A distorted voice speaks. Distorted voice. "Tell the girl to hand over the tape, or we'll bury another sibling." A graveyard at dusk. A fresh grave has no name on it yet. A figure in a dark coat places something beside the headstone. A child's drawing of two stick figures, one tall, one small, with the word help written in crayon. The truth is out. The tape is real. But in a world built on silence, truth has a cost. And the question is no longer what happened. It's who's next. The sound of footsteps. Then a child's voice whispers one final line. He's not done yet. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Black screen. A soft lullaby plays, but it sounds off, slowed down, slightly distorted. The screen fades into a child's empty bedroom. Bed unmade. The stuffed bear left behind. Some goodbyes are whispered. Others are never said at all. It started with silence. No crying. No struggle. Just an open window. And a note left on the floor. The foster mother on the phone panicked. Police lights flash outside the home. Rhodes rushes to the front door, out of breath. Foster mother, crying, "She's gone. I only want to take a shower." 20 minutes. She was here. She was here. She wasn't the only one missing. Inside the girl's room, her bear sat where she last held it, her shoes still under the bed. But her backpack, the one with the tape, was gone too. Rhodes searching the yard with a flashlight. He finds tire tracks in the grass, fresh and deep. It wasn't a runaway. It was a message. Someone had taken her, and they wanted Rhodes to know they could, because this time it wasn't about scaring her. It was about erasing her. Hand over the tape, or we'll bury another sibling. But she didn't have any siblings left, which means they took someone else. Police precinct. Rhodes storms into an office, slams a file down in front of Captain. Sergeant Rhodes, furious. "You know who's behind this. Don't lie to me. The deputy chief gave the order, and now a child is missing." Captain, coldly, "I don't know what you're talking about." He did know. They all did. But the badge only protects the innocent when it wants to. A dark warehouse. The little girl is tied to a chair. Her backpack sits nearby. A man's hand picks it up, unzips it, pulls out the VHS tape. Unknown man, to her, coldly, "You should have stayed quiet." Little girl, defiant, "You should have stayed away from my brother." Rhodes back in his apartment, staring at a wall covered in maps, photos, and red string. A new photo is tacked to the center, a surveillance shot of a familiar face. Rhodes thought the deputy chief was the last man in the chain, but the face on that tape, the one giving orders in the shadows, wasn't him. It was someone else. A politician, a judge, someone with enough power to silence a city, and enough rage to hunt down a child who refused to forget. The kidnapped girl's foster mother receives a package. No return address. She opens it. Inside, a burner phone and a photo. The photo shows a little girl, tied up, holding a sign that says, 24 hours. This wasn't a ransom. It was a deadline. 24 hours to hand over every copy of the tape. Or the next photo would be a funeral portrait. The burner phone rings. She answers. A distorted voice speaks. Time's ticking. She won't scream. She knows better now. Rhodes driving through the night, rain pounding on the windshield. He plays the original tape on loop, listening, rewinding, analyzing. Somewhere in the background of that tape, a sound repeats. A train horn, a church bell, a voice whispering coordinates. Not an accident. A clue. She left him a clue. Rhodes pulls over, zooms in on a frame from the tape. The background reveals a faded sign behind a cracked window. He whispers, "Sergeant Rhodes," quietly. She's near the rail yard. Please like, share, and subscribe. The sound of a distant train horn. Then a child's voice, soft, haunting. Little girl, VO. When I was quiet, they left me alone. When I screamed, they punished me. But now, I speak, and I don't care who listens. The rain falls softly as Rhodes steps out his car, near an abandoned rail yard. The wind howls between rusted train cars. His flashlight cuts through the darkness. It ends where no one watches, where the broken go to disappear. But she was never broken. She was waiting. Rhodes moves quietly through the rail yard. He finds her, tied to a post inside an empty cargo container. She's awake, but still calm. Rhodes whispers, "I'm here. Little girl, I knew you'd come." As he rushes to untie her, a click echoes, a gun cocked behind them. A shadowy figure emerges from the dark. He followed her here too, the man in the suit, the one whose hands never got dirty until tonight. The man steps forward, no mask, no fear. The man, "You have no idea what you're exposing. This isn't about your brother. This is about control, about the kind of power that doesn't lose." Rhodes steps between the girl and the gun. Rhodes. She's not alone anymore. The man. She never was. She's been watched since the day her mother handed her over. This tape, it's not just evidence. It's a death warrant for all of us. The girl steps forward, fearless. She looks the man in the eyes. "Little girl, you knew my brother would die, and you did nothing." The man, "I followed orders." Little girl, firmly, "So did the monsters." A silence falls. Then, from behind Themophone, begins recording. One of Rhodes' hidden body cams is streaming. A red light flashes quietly from his chest. For the first time, the world was listening. The man lunges forward, furious. Rhodes pushes the girl out of the way. A struggle, a gunshot, then silence. The man falls. Rhodes stands, wounded but alive. The girl kneels beside him. Rhodes whispers, "You're safe now." Little girl, tears in her eyes. "No, I'm not, but I'm not afraid anymore." City, 2 weeks later. News headlines flash on screen. Corrupt officials exposed by child's testimony. Deputy chief resigns amid scandal. Police order to stand down in abuse case. The video went viral. The names fell like dominoes. But justice doesn't fix everything. The girl stands before her brother's grave. She places a photo of them both, smiling before everything broke. Little girl, I used to think silence kept me safe, but silence buried him. So now I speak for both of us. A courtroom, she takes the witness stand again. This time, her feet touch the ground. She wasn't just a witness. She was a revolution in a small voice. And when they asked her one last question, why now? She looked the judge in the eye and said, because I don't whisper anymore. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to this channel for more.